Hey y'all, welcome to Candid Scale Modeling. I'm Adam, and today I'm going to walk through my build of a Tamiya 148th British Armored Scout Car Mark II, also known as the Dango. It is small, and it is adorable. So let's get to it. So I will be using Tamiya extra thin cement for the entirety of this build, and we're going to start right off by installing the seat backs to the two chairs for the interior compartment. The parts are small, so you may find it easier to use a pair of tweezers. I have these rubber tipped ones which didn't work fantastic. I really wish I had some metal tips, but unfortunately sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do with what you got. Anyway, once you got those pieces in place, a couple quick dabs of cement, and you're all set. Next we start assembling the main body, which is a left half, right half, and the rear vents. For the most part this was okay. The rear vents do sit on a little ridge. They don't really lock in though, so I did have a little bit of problem holding it in place while you're gluing, make sure it doesn't slip on you. Other than that, no problem. Steering wheel then attaches to the steering column and dashboard. You'd think this would be a simple thing, but no, this is of course I screwed up. The steering column actually has a slight angle to it, so when you put the steering wheel on it, don't try to straighten it out like a regular car. Keep it perpendicular to the steering column and you'll avoid what I did. Because these interior parts were going to be sealed up in the body, I decided to go ahead and paint it ahead of time. First I primed with Vallejo black. And then I went through and I sprayed Vallejo 71324 BS dark green on the dashboard, the interior compartment, and the inside walls of the body itself. I then went and painted the seat cushion and the seat backs. I used Vallejo 7818 red leather mixed with just a couple drops of Vallejo 71262 airbrush flow improver. Even though it's not being airbrushed, the flow improver still thins out the paint just a hair and slows the drying time just a touch so that it actually goes on smoother and levels a lot better, I think. Can't forget about painting the steering wheel. This was just Vallejo 7950 black with just a touch of that airbrush flow improver. Probably didn't need it on such a small area, but why the heck not? With the inside components all painted and dried, we then just took the main part, set it right down inside the body, couple dabs of cement, we're off to the races. That was then followed by the steering wheel and dashboard, which kind of set on. Didn't really fit great to me, but I think that was more me than the kit. And then I assembled the two rear fenders so they could dry while I was doing other things, and to be honest, I actually had a lot of trouble with these. They didn't really seem to lock into place, so they were fiddly to get into place, hold in place, and glue. Luckily, I only had to do it twice. I then took a quick opportunity to prime the tires and the undercarriage. You really can do this at any point. I did it just because I like painting and I had to let some stuff dry, so it filled some time. I had to hold the body together a little bit to get the rear compartment panel into place. Probably me, not the kit, but once I did that, it glued in and everything was fine. Going back once again to the Vallejo 71324 BS dark green, I sprayed the hubs of the tires as well as the controls for the dashboard so those could dry and be ready to install. Once dry, the dash controls went in, but it didn't quite go in the way I liked. Again, it might be me and not the kit, but it definitely had a little bit of spring back to it. It didn't want to lay flat. So in this particular case, I did use a little bit of extra cement, probably more than I needed, but I wanted to really make sure that everything was welded into place so that when it did dry, it didn't slowly pop off. Thankfully, after wrestling with the dash controls as much as I did, the rear cover went right into place. No issues. Glued it, done, moved on. The fenders were also very nice. Just find tab A and then find slot B. Get those two crazy cats together and nothing to it. Do that 4 times and move on. The undercarriage went right into place. It actually sits nice and flush. One thing you are going to want to do here though is make sure that you go all the way around the edges and make sure it's seated nice and flat. You don't want any kind of weird alignment issues with one tire being higher than the other because it looks a little out of whack. I have got no idea what it was about this little storage box, but it did not want to cooperate for me. Maybe you build this, you'll have better luck. It took me a little bit, but once I got it into place, just glued it and moved on. Next up is to install the bar that is used as a support to hold the roof when it's in the retracted position. It goes right in, it's 2 holes and 2 tabs. The problem I had was finding the right elevation to hold the roof flat. But once you do that, nothing to it. So next up was to install these box-like things on the rear fenders. I am not a military vehicle expert. I wasn't sure if these are gas cans or batteries or something else. If anybody out there knows, and feels like it, drop a comment, let me know, huh? Anyways, they went on, no problem. On we go. Next up is to install these two parts on the rear sides of the compartment. I think they're antenna posts. I could be wrong. Again, feel free to tell me I'm an idiot and let me know what they are. I'd appreciate it. They went on with no problem, though. It was then time to put the front fender on, and of course, after having a series of parts go into place with absolutely no issue, this one decided to give me some trouble. There are guides as to how to align it, but it doesn't really lock into place, so as you can see, it gave me a little bit of trouble, slid around on me a bit. Once I got it where I wanted it and got it glued into place, I could complete the assembly and move on to the next part. And then it was time to quickly attach the horn, siren, both, something different, I'm not sure. But this little piece went on now. Now, per the instructions, this was about the time to attach the rear view mirror. I am going to strongly suggest, unless you're very careful with your model, that you wait and do this later. You will see why as the video goes on. We then attach a tie down, and then a shovel, and then what I think might be a first aid kit, or some kind of storage box. And then that'll do it for the small parts on this kit. As I mentioned, that bar was installed to hold the roof up if it's in the retracted position. Now you can model this with the closed roof or a retracted roof. I chose to do a retracted roof. Probably should have done a closed roof because I didn't really detail the interior, but hindsight's 20/20. Anyways, the rear portion of the roof goes down first, which is just aligned with the bar and the edge of the compartment. And then the forward part of the roof is then laid down second, lining up the hinges, just making sure the two halves are aligned properly. Glue them into place, move on. I then went ahead and painted the tires with Vallejo 71 315 tire black. I like this one for that worn gray look on the tires, otherwise I would use black gray for a more new tire look. So the paint job I decided to go with is right from the box cover. It's basically a dark black gray pattern over a dark green base. So I went ahead, primed the entire body, masking the compartment, of course, first. Once that was dry, I went through and I gave it a complete coat of Tamiya 7862 black gray, which I think is a pretty good match for what the box was showing. So the camouflage pattern is a bunch of rounded splotches, for lack of a better word. So to do this, I decided to go ahead and try this masking putty from AK Interactive. I basically snipped off little tiny pieces, rolled them into balls, pressed them into shape, almost like little mutant Mickey Mouse shapes. Once those were done, I attached them all over the car, basically on the edges and in the creases, since that's where they appeared to be. There didn't seem to be a whole lot on the actual body of the car, more on the, like I said, the edges and the creases. Once I was happy with the masking and I was pretty comfortable that I had gotten it in all the places I wanted, I then went ahead and sprayed the whole model down with Vallejo 71 325 BS dark green. Once I got the coverage that I wanted, I then set the model aside to completely dry before I pulled the masks off. Once the paint had dried, I went through and using an X-Acto knife carefully picked off all the little masks. This was the first time I had used this product, and this was the first time I had tried a camouflage like this, and I don't know, I think it didn't come out too bad. I had to take a moment to repair the rear view mirror, which I snapped off, which I warned about earlier in the video. Little dab of glue, carefully hold it in place, and you should be okay, at least for now. And the last step to wrap up the build portion of the kit, gotta give the dingo its shoes. Nothing really fancy or complicated here. Got 4 tires, 4 holes, 4 axles. Glue the tires into place on the axles. They don't naturally sit perpendicular, so you do want to take a moment and square everything up before you set it aside to dry. Otherwise you'll end up with a little bit of tilt, and that can be annoying. When it comes time to apply the decals, I didn't really do anything fancy here. I sprayed the whole kit down with a semi-gloss. You could use a gloss. I know there's a lot of different opinions on this. Some people don't even spray varnish down. We're not going to get into all that right now. Maybe I'll do a video some other time showing you all the differences, but for now, just a straightforward decal job. To apply the decals, just cut them off the decal sheet, soak them in warm water. You can soak them in any temperature water, but warm water definitely works the best. And then dab off the extra water and slide them onto the model in place to where you want them to go. I'm trying this decal applicator stick thing. To be honest with you, I was not too thrilled with it. I did give it a shot through the entire process just to feel like I gave it a fair shot. And in the end, I don't think I'll be using that again. As I said, though, nothing fancy. You can, get into the, decal sets and decal sols and all that kind of stuff. But, and I will with other kits. This particular one, I didn't really need to. The decals behaved fine. I didn't have any complex surfaces to apply them to. No curves, no details, which is really where you need those. I'm going to basically count on the final coat to seal everything in. And yes, here we are repairing the rearview mirror again. For those keeping count at home, this is the second time it has broken off. Just like before. A little dab of glue, hold it in place, and nudge it if you need to, and then you should be okay. For now. No, you are not having deja vu, and this is not an editing glitch. When I was moving the model for the next portion, I snapped it off yet again. So that is a count of 3, 2 back to back. You know the drill by now. So while I was checking the kit over before putting the final coat of varnish on, I noticed that I had missed the muffler on the side. It's nothing fancy. It's actually a molded detail on the chassis. So I just used a little Vallejo 71-129 light rust. Gave it a quick paint. Again, I'm not doing anything fancy with the kit as far as detailing goes, so this will suffice for now. So we wrap up the build by giving it a coat of flat varnish. In this case, I used AK Interactive Ultra Matte Varnish. They say you can spray it with the airbrush straight from the bottle. I found that it's a little thick. Maybe it's a needle that I use. I tend to use a 0.3 millimeter at 20-25 psi. I just thinned it down a little bit. I wish I could give you a ratio. I do it by eye. But I'll work on that for future videos. Once you spray the whole thing down and you're happy with it, set aside to dry. And this build, I believe, is ready for its photo shoot. So overall, like I said, this is the Tamiya kit. It's a 1/48 scale. Yeah, it is definitely tiny. I was not expecting that. This actually was kind of an impulse buy. I know I probably drive my wife nuts because, I'll hop on Amazon to buy anything and oops, the model kit lands in the cart. It's even worse when I go to the hobby store itself, pick up a few paints, and somehow a model kit lands in my bag. Ah, well. So this was an impulse buy. Looked interesting. Got it home, opened it up, realized how small it was, and said, well, nothing to it but to do it. The overall fit was pretty good. And like I pointed out through the video, there were some points that gave me a little bit of hassle, but I'm still really not sure whether that was the kit or me. I'm willing to own those. Most likely it was my fault. Would I suggest this for a beginner? Sure, why not? There's not a lot of parts. Other than being small, it's not overly complicated. Maybe a nice little palette cleanser or something after you've built a really gnarly kit that gave you a lot of hassle. Throw yourself a dingo together. I had a lot of fun with it. Anyway, I guess that wraps this up. If you made it to the end here, I want to thank you very much for watching. Like I said, I am Adam, and this is Candid Scale Modeling. It's only my 3rd video. I'm hoping each one gets a little better than the one before, but yeah, we'll see. Got lots to learn. If you have any questions, comments, or just want to say hey, drop a comment down below. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you want to hold off to see what else comes out in the future, I get it. I totally understand. No pressure. Anyway, again, I appreciate you stopping by, and happy modeling.